So the two schedules that jumped out to me, one of them is the Kansas City Chiefs. Okay. So this team, when they let go of Trent McDuffie and Joe Thuney the last 2 years, those are two great players in their prime. They are now old at key spots and unproven at others outside of Creed Humphreys, right? There's some old guys and unproven guys. They face 6 Pro Bowl quarterbacks in a row late in the year. That's a lot. I mean, if you go last year, the Lions and the Giants had similar runs against Pro Bowl quarterbacks, and it just unraveled their seasons. And not only to the defense, but if you're a quarterback and you look at that schedule, you're like, do you start pressing? Be like, because let's be honest, you're playing a great quarterback. You're thinking about it all week. When you look at, I think the Chiefs' schedule is outrageously brutal. Do you think it matters?
I think it does matter, and I think it was done on purpose. You talk about like the mindset of a quarterback. When you're going into a week and you're playing the creme de la creme, it's a more competitive thing for you. It doesn't mean if you show up there and the quarterback across from you is not good at all, like you're not going to work hard. It's just more of like you take that competitiveness of I got a Hall of Famer or a Pro Bowl guy, all pro across on the other side. I want to show that I'm the best guy. And coaches look at it that way too. So yes, it does matter to the players. But I think this is even bigger for the NFL. They understand that Patrick Mahomes is coming off of a significant knee injury, and they probably didn't want to load the schedule too early with those types of games. But they know that as the season goes on, if Mahomes does play week 1, he's only going to get better and more healthy as the year goes on, you would assume. So backloading the schedule really puts the Chiefs in a situation where, yes, you have to finish strong, but hopefully your quarterback is now at 100% when you go into those games and the offense is clicking on all cylinders. So I think it's a very strategic move by the NFL to backload the schedule, not knowing what Patrick Mahomes is going to be like early in the year.
Yeah, I completely agree with that take regarding the schedule layout. And sure, you've got the Colts, Dolphins, and Raiders early, followed by a bye week. But I think that's the league understanding this situation. Yes, you face Denver first, but still, the point stands. I fully support RG3's viewpoint there. And look, Colin keeps interpreting the latter part of the schedule as a negative. But honestly, no, Patrick Mahomes should ideally be at full strength by then, fully settled, comfortable, trusting his body. And those unproven players Colin keeps mentioning will have had weeks upon weeks to get up to speed. So when they're going up against the elite teams or the top quarterbacks, they'll be performing at their peak. And to draw a comparison with the Giants, did he really say that? I need to go back and listen again. Did he genuinely use the New York Giants as a reference point? What are we even doing here? We're going to compare that situation to Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs right now? I don't care what the Giants' season looks like. It's not the Kansas City Chiefs, not Patrick Mahomes, not Andy Reid, not Steve Spagnuolo. What are we even talking about? What's the logic there? Before I go any further, please, Kansas City Chiefs fans, do not forget to subscribe and watch the full-length video. That is, without any doubt, the single best way to support the growth of this channel, so I can keep producing the most unbiased, grounded, genuine Chiefs content that people actually want to watch and discuss. It genuinely helps a huge amount and goes a very long way. So please consider doing that. But yeah, I don't know, man. Evoking the Giants? What? No. Just no. Yeah, I mean, listen, it's a fascinating schedule, no question. You've got the Broncos first. Regardless, that should be a tough division matchup in Week 1. Week 1 games are always a bit unpredictable anyway. Then you face the Colts and the Dolphins, those are relatively lower-hanging fruit. The Raiders will be interesting because so much depends on who's actually starting at quarterback for them, right? Is it Aiden O'Connell's 4th career start, or is it Kirk Cousins, a seasoned veteran? And that game is at home. Then you have a bye week, but immediately after that you face the Chargers. So you get to play the Chargers coming off your bye. Then it's the Seahawks, then the Broncos again. That's potentially a tough 3-game stretch right there. After that, you have the Jets, Falcons, and Cardinals, a bit of an easing period. And then you hit a difficult stretch of games, the Bills, the Rams, the Bengals, the Patriots, the 49ers. But here's what's really interesting. You're playing the 49ers in Week 16. Colin talks about older players, wear and tear, all that. Well, consider this, who's even healthy for the 49ers by Week 16? Same thing with the Bengals. You might not even be facing Joe Burrow by Week 14, okay? So I'm not so sure about that team. And honestly, let's be real, we're all confident that Matthew Stafford will be perfectly fine this season. But Stafford could also be completely banged up by Week 13. That's exactly why people thought the Rams went out and got Tyrod Taylor, because they were thinking, listen, we didn't even know if Matthew Stafford was going to play last year. That was a genuine question mark. People were seriously concerned, is he even going to be able to start the season? And now they act like his health issues are 100% resolved, no problems whatsoever. I'm not so sure about that. And by the time you get to weeks 13, 14, 15, I don't know what the situation will look like. So in a lot of ways, that schedule, in a somewhat comical and ironic fashion, could mean you're facing the Rams, the Bengals, and the 49ers at a time when all those teams are collapsing. Again, to be perfectly clear, I'm not predicting that. I'm not saying those teams will collapse, and I'm not doubting them, because I think the Rams are awesome, and I'm a huge believer in the Bengals. But at the same time, I don't mean to sound like anything can happen, any injuries can happen as a lazy excuse. It's just that we had a legitimate injury concern with Stafford, and even the Rams admitted it was amazing he was able to play at all. They said it was remarkable how they managed to get him going. Well, then you're just half a step away from that happening again. Joe Burrow literally struggles to stay healthy every single season. Right? And the 49ers have become a walking meme when it comes to injuries, to the point where they're even questioning the condition of their practice field. So it's not a far-fetched idea. It's not like I'm saying, well, Justin Herbert could get hurt in Week 6. Yes, technically that's true for anyone, but that's a different conversation. So I can see this schedule benefiting or hurting the Chiefs in either direction. And in that sense, it almost becomes a non-argument. But for me, I still think it ultimately benefits Kansas City. I believe the stretch of games they have to play is actually quite balanced. And the fact that those tougher games are more backloaded means, I truly believe, that allows Mahomes to get back into rhythm, become more comfortable, and face those teams at his absolute best. It also allows for integrating any new pieces, draft picks, and so on. You want to be able to do that after the bye, later in the season. So I'm just not overly concerned about it. On the flip side, if this team isn't actually as good as it appears on paper, right? If there's a sense that this team is a bit of fool's gold to some degree, and they have a decent record heading into that tough stretch, then people will say, oh, they unraveled, they hit a supernatural funk and collapsed. And I'd say no. If you look back at it, you'd realize, well, you were fortunate to beat the Chargers in Week 6. You lost to the Seahawks and the Broncos. And then of course you play the Jets, Falcons, Cardinals, Colts, and Dolphins. We expect you to beat those teams. It's one of those situations where, in hindsight, maybe you weren't that good. And again, these aren't predictions. I'm just laying out all the possibilities for the sake of conversation. So the way I see it is this: if you're actually a legitimate team this year, then this schedule benefits you. And if you're not, and that tough stretch unravels you, then to me it simply exposes that you weren't really that good to begin with, that you were only able to beat lower-tier opponents. That's my primary way of looking at it. And under that logic, I think it favors the Chiefs. Especially if you add the next layer of reasoning: you're playing Matthew Stafford late in the season, Joe Burrow late in the season, and the entire San Francisco 49ers team late in the season. And I don't know who's healthy in that group, right? You could even make the argument that by Week 12, Josh Allen will be more banged up. All these guys will be more banged up. Justin Herbert, depending on how his offensive line holds up, could be more banged up. And then you round it out with the Las Vegas Raiders, and you're either going against old man Kirk Cousins or the young lad Aiden O'Connell. And that game might not matter at all. But still, it's a cool schedule. I feel like this is only maybe the second time I've really zoomed in on this schedule. And I think it's always helpful to look at these schedules, take a step back, give it some space, hear the conversations, and then revisit it. I do think it's a bit of a bummer that Week 1 is against the Denver Broncos. Week 1 games are always difficult to draw strong conclusions from. I always look for the barometer games, the ones that matter most. To me, the Chiefs could blow out the Dolphins 75-4, and it wouldn't mean much to me. It would be kind of weird that they have Mahomes throwing against two safeties, I guess, but still. It would be one of those things where I just think, whatever. And the Broncos game is an absolute barometer game, but it's week 1. And that's just harder to evaluate. So it's a little frustrating because I am excited for that Broncos game, excited for that matchup. I just don't know how strong of conclusions I can draw in either direction. Whether the Chiefs dominate or get destroyed, I'll think, well, it was week 1. And Patrick Mahomes' first game back. Then you have a couple of other games. And the Raiders, like I said before, fascinating. Who's the actual quarterback? How seriously do we take that game? Unless it feels like Kirk Cousins and the Raiders have momentum. If not, and it's O'Connell, you think, well, it's his 4th career game. A little hard to judge. Then the Chargers, Seahawks, Broncos, definitely back. And that game in Denver in week 8 is way more of a barometer game than week 1 to me, because it's week 8. Everyone has played a bit. You're in rhythm with your offense, your defense, etc. Hen the Jets, Falcons, Cardinals, so the schedule definitely pulses with games where I think, yeah, this is when we're going to get real answers about the Broncos, about the Chiefs. Then you have a little downtime, and then you're back at it. And even a stretch like weeks 12 through 17, it's not hard to imagine that even if the Kansas City Chiefs are quite competitive and a great team this year, they might not just rip off win after win after win during that stretch. So if they do lose to the Bengals or fall to the Patriots, but beat the Bills and the Rams, or whatever combination, it'll be a bit harder to make sense of. You'll say, well, it was such a tough, brutal game in Cincinnati, cold and everything, and then against New England. You can see how you might fall into some of those traps. So it'll be a little difficult to really figure out where the Kansas City Chiefs officially stand. And I always say, I love that, though. I always like when it's a little bit hard, when you have to really try to figure it out. You have to cut through any red herrings that could make you believe you're better than you are or worse than you are. So from an analytical standpoint, I find it pretty fun, pretty interesting. There are definitely a few stretches where you kind of think, alright, back-to-back weeks where people will be hyping the Chiefs, and you're just not caring all too much. And then we definitely have stretches where it's like, okay, now it's on. Now it's time to figure out who the Kansas City Chiefs are, what's going on, what's the story here, what can they become. So that sounds fun to me. But those are just my thoughts. I'd absolutely love to hear yours. What do you all think about the Kansas City Chiefs? How do you feel about the schedule? Are you concerned about the tough teams at the back end? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I read every single comment, so whether you agree with me or disagree with me, either way, let's get into some discussions. Let's get into some debates. But ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We're building an amazing community here, and I would absolutely love to see you be part of it. I want to build something that we all genuinely feel connected to, something we're really excited to be part of. I think we're well on our way. Please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, it really does help with visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much. See you next time.